إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد عجل فرجه. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. These ayat today, beginning ayat from Surah Al-Jum'ah, which as we read before also in many occasions, it says everything on samawat and as in skies and earth is yusabbahu lillah, is saying the tidings to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He's the Malik al-Quddus, He is the creator, and they are all saying Shahadat that He is Pakizah, He is away from any napaki and anything bad. And He is the one who has created the Rasul, the Akhiran Rasul, the last Piyambar, and taught him the ayat and kept him clean. And He is the one who is teaching us the Kitab and the Hikmah. And He's away from any napaki, anything bad. And basically, the reason I choose this ayat tonight is that in our belief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a Rasul, the Akhirin Rasul, the last messenger from the people who couldn't read, and this Rasul came, and one of his miracles is that he could read this ayat to people and teach from it, a kitab, even though he didn't have any education. So basically, we see that in continuation to our Rasul, our Imams, each one of them, they came and they came to do the tabligh for the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one by one they come shaheed because they were actually continuing the work of Rasulullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left us a book and hikmah from our Rasul to guide us through our live and life. And this fazl, this hadiah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is from Allah, who can give you without any limitations. And He is Dana and Hakim, and also He is the one who has the unlimited fazl, and then can give it to anybody who He wishes to. And today we commemorate the Shahadat of Imam Ali and Naqi, the 10th Imam and the grandfather of Imam Zamanana. This is our opportunity to have this Majlis and dedicate it to Imam Zamanana in the anniversary of the Shahadat of his grandfather, the father of Imam Hassan Askari, and the Imam that lived very young life, but his contribution is actually unlimited because he's the father of Imam Hassan Askari, and he's the one who teach Imam Hassan that in his short life also he will be the last one to Imam Zamanana. And inshallah, the barakat in Ruz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps his bala away from our community and from our community and family. And inshallah, we'll be worthy to be a mourner for the grandfather of Imam Zamanana. And our Imam Zaman will keep his nazar on us and our community and our families and friends and all the Ummah and Muslimin, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil. ज़िक्र ग़मे हुसैन से महफिल सजी रही, गुल हो गया चराग मगर रोशनी, गुल हो गया चराग मगर रोशनी, अकबर के बाद जिस्त में क्या दिलकशी रही, लैला तमाम उम्र यही सोचती, लैला तमाम उम्र यही सोचती, अश्के गमे हुसैन का टूटा न सिलसिला, रूमाले फातिमा में हमें शानमी, रूमाले फातिमा में हमें शानमी, ख़ैमे फुरात से तो हटाए गए मगर अब्बास नामदार की त्योरी चढ़ी, अब्बास नामदार की त्योरी चढ़ी, अब्बास लेने आए जो मैदान की रिजा, ज़ैनब बस अपने बाजुओं को देखती, ज़ैनब बस अपने बाजुओं को देखती रही, जिक्रे गमे हुसैन से सलवात। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। किस उम्र में अली नक़ी बेपिदर हुए, बचपन में दिल पर चोट लगी नौहगर हुए, यसरब में जानशीने शह बहरोबर हुए, ये वारिसे बिजात खैरुल बशर हुए, इल्मो अमल को मान लिया शेख शाब ने, क्या कम सीनी में पाई बुजुर्गी जनाब ने, क्या कम सीनी में पाई बुजुर्गी जनाब ने, चरक़े नहुम इमाम दहुम का मकाम है, पुश्तो पनाह अर्श बरीन का नाम है, हर चार सिमत मद हो सनाए इमाम है, तस्बीह शहजहद की दुरूदो सलाम है, नारी है जो कहे कि ये नूरे खुदा नहीं, अनवार खमसे नुजबा से जुदा नहीं, अनवार खमसे नुजबा से जुदा नहीं, दौर चरक राह ये कैसा है इंतजाम, खामोश क्यों रहूं कि शिकायत का है मकाम, रहने न पाए चैन से इस तरह का इमाम, वो जोर जालिमों का वो इज़ाए सुबह हो शाम, फर्जंद पर रसूल की उम्मत जफा करे, पुरसाना जब कोई हो तो मजलूम क्या करे, पुरसाना जब कोई हो तो मजलूम क्या करे, तैयार कत्ल पर मुतवक्किल रहा मुदाम, मजबूर रह गया वो अदुए शहे अना, पहुंचा सफर में छोड़ के ये कार ना तमाम, कायम मकाम उसके हुए दुश्मन इमाम, फुर्सत मिली ना दिल बरे शेरे इलाह को, तदबीर मोतमद से मिला जहर शाह को, तदबीर मोतमद से मिला जहर शाह को, वो खल्क का मसीह हुआ साहिबे फिराश, बेहस था जिस्म फर्श पर गोया पड़ी थी लाश, कुंजे लहद की गोशे नशी को हुई तलाश, सुराख दिल में थे तो कलेजा था पाश पाश, आते थे हाल देखने बाशिंदे शहर के, पोता रिजा का मरता था सदमे से जहर के, पोता रिजा का मरता था सदमे से जहर के, रावी बहुत से हाशमी इसके है ला कलाम, जिनमें से कासन इब्ने हुसैन नाम, आया जो रोजे रहलते शाह फलक मकाम, सहने मकाम फर्श पते जलवगर इमाम, मजमा बहुत था सैयदे जीजाह के करीब, मर्दम थे जमा 150 के करीब, मर्दम थे जमा 150 के करीब, नागाह अस्करी नजर आए हमें उदास, दाखिल हुए मकाम आया चेहरे से थी यास, पाबंदे हुस्न चाक गरेबा व बेहवास, दाहिनी तरफ खड़े हुए आकर पिदर के पास। किस हाल में है कौन ये है जानते न थे, हुज़ारे अंजुमन उन्हें पहचानते न थे, हुज़ारे अंजुमन उन्हें पहचानते न थे। नूरे नजर को देख के हजरत ने ये कहा, कर शुक्र किरदगार का है मेरे मैं लका, हादिस एक अमर तेरे लिए हक ने है किया। रोने लगा ये सुनते ही वो राज़िए रिदा, बोला के शुक्र मरहमत जुलजलाल है, दे अपनी नेमतें ये खुदा से सवाल है, दे अपनी नेमतें ये खुदा से सवाल है। पूछा किसी ने तब हुआ मालूम सबको हाल, ये है हसन जनाबे अली नकी के लाल, जाहिर हुआ जो उम्र की जानिब किया क़ियाल, होगा करीब 20 बरस के ये खुश जमाल। समझे इशारा हम ये कलाम इमाम का, है जानशी यही शय आली मकाम का, है जानशी यही शय आली मकाम का। रोता रहा वसीए शहिंशाह बहरोबार, साथ वो आई सर से उठा साए पिदर, सामरे से जिना की तरफ हो गया सफर, है छुटा मुसाफिर यसरब से ये भी घर, गुल पड़ गया वफाते गरीबुल वतन हुई, सामान गुस्ल का हुआ फिक्रे कफन हुई, सामान गुस्ल का हुआ फिक्रे कफन हुई। सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद।
I think brother Sayyid Kirmani is here. Does anybody want to recite anything else? Please let me know. Otherwise, we will ask brother Sayyid Kirmani to go ahead and start. I think. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, we'll begin.
Inshallah.
Rahimallah man qara Surah al-Mubarakat al-Fatiha. Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. خذوا أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ونعم المولى ونعم النصير، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وقل رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتاب الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. صدق الله العلي العظيم. My respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman in Kansas City, throughout North America and wherever you are hearing my voice. Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Question: what is the position of Imam Ali al-Naqi in Shia thought? Keep that question in the back of your mind, inshallah. We will return to it. When we come to the lives of our respected Imams, we are here to commemorate an Imam whose effort, whose work is so magnanimous and so vital for you and I as followers of Ahlul Bayt in this part of the world and in this time, in this era, whether we are in Kansas City, whether we are in Florida, or wherever we may be. We have, if we call ourselves Shia, we have this Imam to thank, because it was his efforts that allowed us to navigate the difficult terrain of the Abbasid rulers in order that you and I can call ourselves Shias today. You see, the era and the time of Imam al-Hadi al-Naqi was an era and time where there was an environment where the utmost of atrocities were being done on the Shias. The limits of atrocities had been done, not only on the Shias, to the extent of even Sayyid al-Shuhada himself, Imam Abu Abdullah, our third beloved Imam, had to suffer at the hands of this person. You may say, how is it that the third Imam, where is his time? 61 AH, that is 61 after Hijrah. And where is the time of Mutawakkil? And where is the time of Imam Hadi? How many generations are in between? But this individual, Mutawakkil, did not stop. He went and attacked the Dhari and the shrine of Sayyid al-Shuhada. He ran water through to the graves of Sayyid al-Shuhada. But of course, as the Quran al-Majid wal Furqan al-Hamid says, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ, that they plan and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners, that nothing can stop the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his representatives on earth. Therefore, in the very brief moments that we have together tonight, inshallah, my dear brothers and sisters in Kansas City, I want to share with you this idea, this concept about understanding and trying to get a glimpse into the ma'rifah of this beloved Imam and what role he played for you and I to be followers of Ahlul Bayt in this era, in this age, and this time, in the 21st century. Therefore, in the brief moments we have together, I want to look at a few things. I want to look at number one, how did Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam lay the groundwork for Imam Sahib al-Zaman, the Imam of our time, the 12th Imam? What did Imam Hadi do at that time that is because of the seed that he sowed, that we are now able to have the era of the Imam and the reappearance of the Imam be paved, that road be paved, number one. Number two, I want to look at what lessons we can derive from the efforts of Imam Hadi alayhi salam, and also in terms of his tarbiyah and nurturing of his family and offspring, that you and I can implement in our own lives. For example, we in the Majlis of Ahlul Bayt, this is the university of Ahlul Bayt. This is the institution of the Ahlul Bayt. This is the darsgah of the Ahlul Bayt. If you and I are not getting the solutions to our problems, we will begin to lose our next generation. As in many places, this is happening already. People are moving towards different things that they believe are solving their problems. For example, Buddhism, for example, Shintoism, for example, X, Y, and Z. I'm not saying they're all bad. But what I'm saying is, what about those gifts that Ahlul Bayt have given you and I, and how we can benefit from it? I want to look at that. Then I want to look at the intellectual prowess of the Imam, the intellectual, the knowledge and the wisdom of the Imam that was made zahir during his discussions, during his questions and answers, during his debates. What knowledge do we get from the Imam alayhi salam? Also, what did the Imam tell us about some problems and some solutions to our problems that you and I can benefit from? For example, how can we alleviate our problems in this modern world? We have issues of COVID, this vaccine that is destroying lives, and it's tremendous difficulty. People are suffering from sustenance difficulties. The risk has been stopped. The risk has been halted. What are some solutions to this? In light of what the Ahlul Bayt have told us, how can we benefit? And at the fifth level, I want to come to Imam Naqi alayhi salam and understand what was his musibah, what was his difficulty, what was the adversity, what was the travesty that Imam al-Hadi al-Naqi alayhi salam had to deal with, and how can we commemorate him and ultimately give our condolences to the Imam of our time. This is our agenda and our schedule for the evening, inshallah, wherever you are, in Kansas City, or across the globe, wherever you are hearing my voice, send a salawat on Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. It is I miss the dear beloved community of Kansas City. I'm someone who's used to reciting in the crowd in front of people. So therefore, to be able to recite on Zoom, I understand and I know this is the right thing to do given the circumstances. But remember, I miss you deeply. And in my mind's eye, you are all there. Whether it's Dr. Jaffrey, both of them, or whether it's Dr. Marghoub or others, and so many other people who are in my heart. If I start taking names, I don't have all the time. But know that the brothers and sisters in Kansas, you have a special place in my heart. And inshallah, when this pandemic ends, and inshallah, when things get better, when vaccines become more available and abundant, inshallah, times will get better. And I want to give you that message of hope. Inshallah, we will meet again, inshallah. Nonetheless, starting with Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, Imam al-Naqi, he laid the groundwork for Imam Sahib. First point, how? You see, he made the arrangements for the birth of Imam Sahib al-Zaman. Yes, Imam Sahib al-Zaman, the 12th Imam, would be born otherwise. But the steps that the Imam took, our 10th Imam, in order for the birth of Imam Sahib al-Zaman to happen, are noteworthy. And in this narration are lessons for you and I. For example, what? Marriage. One of the biggest problems that I've seen coast to coast in Europe, in America, wherever you are or across the globe, is marriage. Many of our youth, for example, they have difficulty finding a spouse. When they do find a spouse, sometimes once they get married, there are issues in the marriage. For example, they don't get along in terms of, for example, finances, children, religion, different factors come into the play. And when this happens, ultimately, unfortunately, we are seeing an environment of divorce occurring. And this has gotten exacerbated and made even more difficult when we look at the environment where there is COVID and you have the husband and the wife and the children, for example, they're all under one roof and it's like a pressure cooker. Now that can be an environment that is beautiful, and that can also be an environment where people begin to argue, they begin to nitpick at little things. I want to look at what did the Ahlul Bayt teach us and how we can benefit from that. Number one, we're told, as you know, the mother of the Imam of our time, the wife of Imam Askari, our 11th Imam, and the daughter-in-law of Imam Hadi, the movement was made by Imam Hadi to initiate this process. Why? Because Lady Narjis or Bibi Narjis was the daughter of the Caesar. The Caesar of who? The Caesar of Rome, of Byzantium or Byzantine. You see, in that time in the world was divided into the two great powers. There was the Muslim world on one side, and there was Byzantium or Rome on the other side. And the leadership of Rome was under the Caesar. The Caesar's daughter was Bibi Narjis or Lady Narjis. What had happened? And I will not narrate the whole thing. I will just narrate a part that may be of benefit to us, inshallah, because it's a very long narration. She was expected to get married. When she was expected to get married to a Christian, she's still Christian at this time. She's not Muslim. When she was Christian at this time, she was expected to get. When this first person came for the marriage, when the time and the arrangements and the preparations came for the marriage, when this happened, he died. The man, the groom she was supposed to get married to, died. This happened one time. When the second time came for the preparations of the marriage, the second groom came. He was also Christian, a prince, something of this nature. When Lady Narjis was supposed to get married, she's still Christian at this point, he died as well. After this happened, there began to be a discussion. Is this good news, bad news, good luck, bad luck? Things like this all begin to happen. People had opinions about this. Lady Narjis had a dream. In her dream, she sees Nabi Isa alayhi salam. In her dream, when she sees Nabi Isa, Prophet Jesus, he has his 12 hawariyun, his 12 disciples. Her disciples are with him. When his disciples are with him, she sees this dream, and it's a long, I don't have time to go into all of the details about it. Nonetheless, and then she sees another dream in which she sees the Ahlul Bayt, and there's this thing that she tries to get the expression of and to understand what does this dream mean. I'm condensing it, I'm summarizing it, and trying to get to the point. Otherwise, I'll miss this entire lecture to get to the point of what I'm trying to say. Afterwards, she got the message that she has to go on this journey to understand what does this dream mean. When this happened, Imam Hadi is on the other side. Imam Hadi has said that his daughter-in-law has come to the bazaar to be sold as a slave. I'm skipping through it. When she has come to the bazaar to be sold as a slave, he sends his servant to go take this money, and he says that go and bring this lady, buy her, purchase her from the bazaar. Imagine, the Caesar's daughter has come into the bazaar to be sold as a slave. When he buys her, he purchases her, he comes and brings this lady Narjis, Bibi Narjis, in front of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, the 10th Imam. Imam says, look, here I have purchased you, I've bought you, I am also giving you this 10,000 dirham or dinar, you are free to go. You are welcome to go. However, if you also have an option that you can get married to my son, Imam Hassan al-Askari, and the one who marries my son Hassan al-Askari, he will give birth, or she will give birth to that individual, that entity that will give rise to the savior of humanity. She said that I have no interest in money. She came from the wealthiest family. She came from the most affluent family. She said that I want to know what that dream was about. And I want that dream to come to fruition. Where she saw Lady Fatima, where she saw the Ahlul Bayt. She said, I want that dream to come to fruition. Lady Narjis says. He said, very well. And the arrangements were made and they were to get married. This is the point I wanted to stop at, to share what lesson you and I can derive from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. Imam said, this is roughly 8 days before the marriages to take place of Imam Askari and Lady Narjis. He says, the 10th Imam, Imam Hadi, who we're commemorating tonight, says to his sister, Lady Hakima, he says to his sister, Lady Hakima is the one who's buried in the Dhari and Samarra with the 10th Imam and the 11th Imam. She is the sister of the Imam. And at that point she says, look, I want you to explain to my daughter-in-law to be, I want you to take her to the lady's side and explain to her for the next few days what is Islam and what are the tenets of Islam? What is the belief of Islam? What are the ahkam of Islam? What are the responsibilities of Islam? What are wajibat? What are muharramat? What is wajib? Namaz, roza, hajj, zakat, khums, all of these things. Also, you may say, for example, usuluddin, tawheed, adala, nubuwwat, imamat, qiyamat, these things. Teach her all of these things. Now, my question to myself and you is to think about this. Do we do this before our children get married? Do we do what the Imam said? She's about to be the mother of an Imam, not any Imam. The Imam who's the savior of the kainat, who's the savior of man and jinn. This lady, Lady Narjis, a blessed, pure lady, the Imam is saying, teach her the principles and the tenets of Islam, according to the riwayah. What does that tell for you and I? What is the lesson that you and I derive from this? Because do we teach our children? Do we have workshops, seminars in our communities that help, for example, teach the ropes, teach the basics, teach the fundamentals? For example, you may say that maybe you learned it in madrasa, in Sunday school. It's very good. But who remembers? Maybe you remember the basics. Inshallah, you remember everything. But you need refreshers. For example, do medical professionals not take continuous medical education training? Do not project management professionals take continuous education training? Do not professionals continuously learn and refresh their expertise? We need to revise these for our youth before they get married in order to prevent issues down the road, in order to prevent problems down the road. This darsgah of Ahlul Bayt must give us solutions to the problems that we face. I want to give you another gift, inshallah, in this night by the tawassul of Imam Hadi alayhi salam. That is to understand affection. I'm getting so many emails and calls and issues that people are facing during COVID, especially. Not getting along. Young married couples, they're not able to speak to each other in a way that they're getting along. There's a lot of problems, a lot of challenges. I don't want it to end in divorce. I don't want problems. Therefore, I want to give a solution. And these come from the Ahlul Bayt. But I want to give you a framework from Dr. Gary Chapman. You can check this on yourself. But he's somebody who's dedicated his life to marriage. And he said there's different ways that people express their affection. Remember, in Islam, you must be able to express affection. Husband and wife, or for example, father and child, or mother and child, must express affection. Rasulullah would take Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein and he would sit them on his lap while he's on the mimbar and he would kiss them, for example. He would hug them, for example. This was unheard of in Arabia before Rasulullah. It was shown as a sign of weakness. If a man, he kisses his son, for example, in public, it was seen as a sign of weakness. Rasulullah said, no, affection must go in the heart. Today you ask psychologists, psychiatrists, people who are experts in mental health, what happens to a child when they don't have affection, when they don't feel love? It causes many problems down the line. There are many things to say about this. One thing I want you to remember is always teach your children optimism. Dr. Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania, he says there's a concept called positive psychology. And people who are optimistic, people who see the glass half full rather than half empty. You see the glass, the old analogy you've heard, glass half full, glass half empty. You must try to see the glass half full, have hope. Why? Because the people who are optimistic are happier, healthier, and wealthier than people who are not. So he says, well, how can you do this? The biggest thing that Dr. Martin Seligman said is this: you can learn this. How can you learn this? The way you can learn this is by becoming an advocate against your negative thoughts. How do you do that? ABC method. ABC method stands for adversity, the belief about the adversity meaning difficulty, adversity, the belief about the adversity, and your consequence of that belief. For example, you fail a test. You can say, now comes the belief. The action is you failed the test. You can tell yourself that, for example, I just didn't study this time. Next time I'll study, I'll get a good exam. This is one way. Another, what many people do is they say, oh, I'm not smart. I'm incompetent. I'm not intelligent. This belief leads you to repeat a cycle where you constantly fail in life. Whereas Dr. Seligman says, you need to become an advocate for yourself against your negative thoughts. That is, if you have a negative thought, fight that negative thought by changing the belief. Well, no, I don't always get bad grades. I just didn't study. Today I'll study, tomorrow I'll study, I'll get a better grade. You change that belief and the consequence changes. Then you become more optimistic. Teach your children optimism, inshallah. They will thrive in their life. There is a book I recommend. It's called The Optimistic Child. It is very good for any parent, inshallah. You will benefit from it. The next level, Dr. Gary Chapman. How can we show affection? There are at least 5 ways to show affection. Dr. Gary Chapman, he's somebody who's dedicated his life to marriage relations. We sometimes don't realize this. He said there's a few ways in which you can show your affection, and each person is different. For example, one level of affection is touch. You, for example, touch your spouse or your child on the shoulder, on the hand, on the back, for example, or you give them a hug. This is touch. There's another level that is words. You use words of appreciation, words of kindness. This is something that certain people appreciate more than others. Another is actions. You actually do actions that help for your loved one, for your spouse, or for your children, or for your parents. You do this. The next level is actually giving gifts. Gifts don't have to be big gifts. They can be small gifts, but gifts giving. The 5th level is actually time. And maybe this is the most valuable and the most difficult in this day and age. I say this because everyone has a different thing that they appreciate. Now, riwayat. And I'm going very fast because I have a lot to cover in a very little time. I want your lives to be better. I want our lives of Ahlul Bayt's followers to be beautiful and harmonious by the tawassul Ahlul Bayt. Imam Baqir alayhi salam, our 5th Imam, whose birth just passed the other day, he has a riwayah on the 1st of Rajab. He has a riwayah that if you are angry and you are standing, sit down. Many of you have heard this is a very famous riwayah. But the second part of this hadith we don't mention. The second part of this riwayah of the Imam says that if you are angry or upset with a loved one, or a loved one is upset with you, a family member, the Imam says, touch them lightly or gently. Now, if they are in rage or they're very, very upset and maybe even violent, God forbid, don't touch them. Be careful. But if they're a little upset, a little bothered, just touch them on the shoulder, on the back, and show you care. Imam says this will have an impact. Number 1. Dr. Gary Chapman said the same thing. He said that some people, they just need a touch on the shoulder, on the back, a hug. That's how they express, they feel loved and appreciated. Sometimes your children, they just want a pat on the back. You need to show that affection to them so that they feel accomplished and they feel like they belong. Many parents, some children have never heard I love you from their parents, especially fathers, for example. Mothers may say it all the time. But you know what challenges this leads to in the child down the road? You must share the affection. Number two, there's another category of people that actually they want words. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, our seventh Imam alayhi salam, he says, when you have a brother of yours or someone who you like, you care about them, you have affection for them, you like some trait that they have. For example, they're very nice, they smile. If you have a trait, they have a trait that you like, tell them, say that to them, because it will bring the hearts nearer. Imam al-Kadhim says, it will bring the hearts nearer. You know how many times we like or appreciate someone, we don't tell them? Husband, wife, they don't tell each other, they appreciate them. There's a study conducted at Arizona State University that looked at this. They asked people, do you appreciate what your spouse does, your husband does, your wife does? 98% people said, yes, we appreciate it. They said, do you tell them, the second question, do you tell them you appreciate them? Do you tell them, thank you for doing the dishes, thank you for doing the laundry, thank you for cooking this meal? Do you tell them? No, I don't tell them. How is that person supposed to know? Are they a prophet? Did Jibreel descend? Did Mikael descend? Did Israfil descend? I hope Israel didn't descend. Who descended? Nobody descended to tell. That you need to express that compassion. Dr. Gary Chapman gives an example. He says that I had a client who was a lady. She said, I am gotten sick of telling my husband, fix the fan, fix the fan, fix the fan, fix the fan. He doesn't fix the fan. It's always like that. I've asked him 100 times. So Dr. Gary Chapman, he asked a few questions. He said, can you answer this question, this question, this question? He asked, she answered, and he got the answer. He said, I know his type of the 5. He said, listen, for the next 2 weeks, do not mention the fan. Don't say a word about the fan. Don't say anything about the fan. He said, now what I want you to do is, just anytime you see something genuine, you appreciate it. Anytime you see something that you like, admire, appreciate, maybe he took out the trash, maybe he cooked something, maybe he did something, he worked hard at work, just appreciate and acknowledge that. And then 2 weeks later, come back. She did exactly as he said. After less than 2 weeks, she came back and said that he fixed the fan. I didn't say anything. I didn't it. And therefore and the same goes for the wife. You have to understand what it is that the other person or the other party appreciates. It's just like how, you go to the petrol pump when the fuel in your car has gone down, you go to the petrol pump. When you go to the petrol pump, sometimes there's an 87 grade, 89 grade, 91 grade, 93 grade. These are different grades of the fuel. Some cars require higher grades, for example. Everyone has a different type of fuel that they need once their tank of affection goes down, once their tank of appreciation goes down. The third level comes to actually doing acts. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, I always mention this riwayah, it's one of my most beautiful favorite ones. Imam al-Mujtaba is in the masjid. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, our second Imam, is in the masjid in i'tiqaf. When he's in i'tiqaf, we're told according to the riwayah, i'tiqaf is when you're in the masjid, you don't leave the masjid for about 3 days. When he's in i'tiqaf, a man comes to the Imam, he says, Yabna Rasulillah, I'm in a state, I'm in an environment where I have a huge debt. I owe a lot of money. I don't have the money. He said, Yabna Rasulullah, can you help me? Imam said, look, I don't have the money right now. I'm sorry for that. I apologize. I'm in i'tiqaf. He said, Yabna Rasulullah, okay, I understand. You don't have the money. Fine. But can you at least speak to this person? You are the grandson of Rasulullah. If you say something, he'll listen. Just say to give me an extension. Give me a few days. Tell him that at least, please. He said, very well. Imam got up and he began to proceed towards the exit of the masjid. Now, everyone's looking at the Imam. They say, Yabna Rasulullah, he's in i'tiqaf. What is he going to do? Is he leaving? He goes to the exit of the mosque. He picks up his shoes. He's about to leave. They say, Yabna Rasulullah, in a state of i'tiqaf, you're leaving the masjid. How? He said, look, I have heard from my father who heard from Rasulullah that anyone who helps a mu'min believer, a believer, when they are in difficulty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes in their book of deeds 9,000 years worth of reward. That is, that the reward of helping a brother or sister in Islam who is in difficulty is greater than even the i'tiqaf that the Imam was doing in ibadah. You and I, helping one another. I tell myself first and foremost, do we help our family members? Do we help our spouses? Do we help others? It's difficult, I know, but try to make time. Make efforts towards that regard, inshallah. The third level is gifts. It doesn't have to be big gifts. It could be small gifts. Sometimes for us men, we think that everything has to be 12 roses are better than one rose, for example. I know what just passed the other day, for example. But sometimes our sisters, their brain doesn't work like that. We're very analytical, numerical. For them, it's just the thought that you brought something means a lot. Sometimes you have to do that. And sometimes that's what you should do. There are many riwayat about gift giving. I don't have time. The fifth one is time. And this is the most crucial one. In our modern world, one of the biggest difficulties we face, according to hospice research at hospice centers where people spend their last days of their life, they ask them, what's the biggest regret you have? Do you know what the number one answer was? The number one answer was that the people that were dying said, we wish we spent more time with our family. My dear brothers and sisters, do not neglect the time with your families. Make sure, because that's what you'll regret at the end. Make sure you make time for these things, inshallah. These are the 5 levels. Implement them and have harmony in your lives. Coming to Imam Naqi alayhi salam, when we understand his efforts and what he did for us, we benefit in our own lives. Another problem I want to tackle through the hadith of Imam Naqi alayhi salam is sometimes people say, this is a bad day. This is a bad luck day. This is not a good day. This is a day that you should stay away. Sometimes people do these things. There may be a certain riwayat, I don't want to say that, but I want to share one thing. A man came to Imam Hadi, Imam Naqi, and he was in an environment where the Imam was under house arrest. And he was also in prison for a very extended period of time. When the Imam alayhi salam was in prison for a very extended period of time, what happened was a man came and he wanted to visit the Imam. When he came to the prison where the Imam was stationed, he met the guard at the prison. And he said, I want to meet the Imam. He said, very well. He said, go and meet the Imam at that point in time. And when he went in there to meet the Imam, he noticed the Imam was there, and right next to the Imam was a grave. That was the grave that was dug for the Imam himself. Imagine, look at the environment. He says, Salaamu alaykum, ya ibn Rasulullah, wa alaykum as-salam. He said, ya ibn Rasulullah, I have a question. I wanted to meet you. I have a question for you. He said, what's your question? He says that I've heard a hadith from your grandfather Rasulullah. I've heard a tradition from your grandfather Rasulullah. What's that tradition? He says, that tradition, that riwayah from your grandfather, it says that do not make the days your enemy. Do not make the days your enemy. For whoever makes the days, the yawm, the ayyam, their enemy, the days or the ayyam will become their enemy. What does it mean? Can you explain? He says, very well, you have said correctly that this is attributed to my grandfather, Rasulullah. He says, look, with respect to this tradition, you must know that the secret of this is us, the Ahlul Bayt. He said, what do you mean? He said, look, every day, and you can refer to Mafatih al-Jinan of Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi, and you will find this riwayah, or in particular, you'll find the ziyarat associated with Ahlul Bayt on which this riwayah from Imam Hadi tells us the basis of this. Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi, Mafatih al-Jinan. What happened? He said, listen, every day of the week has a relationship and a connection to us, the Ahlul Bayt. He said, what do you mean? He said, you see, the Saturday, that is the day that is associated with Rasulullah, my grandfather Rasulullah. Saturday is his day. And then he said that the Sunday, which we call Sunday, that day is associated with Amir al-Mu'minin and Fatima Az-Zahra. Imam Ali and Fatima Az-Zahra, their day is Sunday. And he said Monday is associated with Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Hassanain, Sayyid al-Shababe, Ahlul Jannah. And he went on and he went further, and he said that Tuesday is associated with the 4th, 5th, and 6th Imam. Imam Zainul Abidin, Imam Baqir, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is Tuesday. Wednesday is associated with the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th Imam. Wednesday is associated with the Imam, 7th Imam to Imam Hadi alayhi salam. Thursday is associated with Imam Askari alayhi salam. And Friday, Yawm al-Jum'ah, is associated to Imam Sahib Asr al-Zaman, the Imam of our time. Hence, we remember him on Thursday nights and especially on Friday mornings with Dua Nudba, for example, when we don't see him. These are the days and their association with the Ahlul Bayt as taught to us by Imam Hadi alayhi salam. However, in addition to this, the Imam then taught him all the ziyarat. There is a makhsus specific ziyarah for each of the holy 14 personalities to be recited on those specific days I just mentioned, according to Imam Hadi alayhi salam, which Sheikh Abbas Qummi, Sahib al-Mafatih al-Jinan, has listed in Mafatih al-Jinan for you and I to benefit. Therefore, we should not say that these days are bad and these days are evil. The days are associated with Ahlul Bayt. Furthermore, Amir al-Mu'mineen says that there are only 2 days. There is a day that is an Eid for you, and there is a day that is not an Eid for you. What is that? The day in which you do not commit a sin against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your Eid. That is a beautiful, blessed day. And the day in which you do ma'asiyah and you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you spend in the disobedience of Allah, that is not a good day for you. Therefore, we should strive to know that each day has a connection to Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and on top of that, that we must use the time that we have from Allah for the best, for the betterment of society, to make the world a better place. The Imam Hadi alayhi salam, just some glimpses of his life in the brief time that we have together, inshallah. I'm racing against the clock. The Imam would give nasiha, would give guidance even to his enemy. Remember, Mutawakkil was ashqul ashqiya. He was the worst of the later rulers of Banu Abbas. The travesty, the things that he did are unimaginable and unthinkable. One night we're told that Mutawakkil al-Abbasi, he is drunk and he has been drinking alcohol. And in that state of drunkenness, he calls on Imam Hadi. He says, go and bring a Naqi, go and bring the Imam of the Shias. I want to talk to him. I want to speak to him. In the middle of the night, they bring the Imam from the prison. And when they bring the Imam from the prison, they bring him in front of Mutawakkil, and he has all of his men with him, and they are in the court. When he says this, his Mutawakkil says, he takes his glass that he has in which he has alcohol, and he is in this drunken state. Remember, this state is the state of the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, not the state of the Ahlul Bayt. He takes this and he says, I offer you this drink. Why do you not drink it? The Imam says that najasa cannot mix and touch with us. Remember, this is whose family ayatul tathir of the Quran has been revealed for his family. That is that individual. Imam says, our blood, our flesh cannot mix with this indecency that you have in your hand. He tried to insist. The Imam rejected. He went further. He says, I want to hear a poem from you. I want to hear a ghazal poem from you. Of course, at that point in time, the Imam says that we are not those who recite this type of poetry. Remember, the Quran, Surah Shu'ara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He condemns those poets who don't do meaningless poetry. Those who have, for example, hypocrisy in their actions and their word in the last verses. But Allah, He gives an exemption. He says, except those people who do poetry for good, except those people who do poetry for justice. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَانْتَصَرُوا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا ظُلِمُوا. If you remember, I've recited these verses in Kansas City. Nonetheless, at that point in time, when he insists, he says that we don't recite these verses. He says, I insist and I will not let you go home until you say something. At that point in time, according to the riwayah, 14 couplets, 28 lines of poetry, Imam al-Hadi says extemporaneously, fil badi as we say. Imam himself said poetry in response to Mutawakkil. And what poetry he said? The Imam said, who are those people and where are those people that they built? There are certain people who built houses in hills or in mountains to protect and to preserve themselves from death. But death came to them and death captured them, and the graves are calling out to them, where are your crowns? Where are your homes? Where are your thrones? Where are your robes? That yesterday you were so pompous and yesterday you were so arrogant, yet today you are in the same earth that you tried to hide yourself from and be in the mountains. The Imam said these line after line after line of poetry, the impact that it had on the heart of Mutawakkil. Although he was drunk, he began to cry. And when he began to cry in that state, at that point, the Imam alayhi salam walked away, having taught this individual in a state of drunkenness that he will not last. A lesson for you and I. The Fir'aun he thought that he would live forever. He didn't live forever. Qarun came and went. Haman came and went. Shaddad came and went. every zalim will come and go, whether it was Yazid or otherwise. The lesson the Imam is saying, remember, zulm never lasts. It is temporary. It is transitory. The Quran says, وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقِّ وَضَحْقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ ضَحُوقًا. Remember this, the Imam gave the lesson in that state and that environment. But Mutawakkil didn't stop. When he got out of his drunkenness, he would call the Imam again and again. He would sometimes have debates. He would sometimes have question answer sessions, and he would try to test the Imam. One day, he called the Imam. And at that point in time, when he called the Imam, he says that these are certain people, they have questions. One person in the darbar, in the court, he called out, Saluni, Saluni. The same way Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib had called out, ask me before I leave you. The man got up. He said, you said Saluni, Saluni? He said, yes. He said, ask me, anything you want. He says, very well, then I will ask you. He said, what's your question? He says, is Hajj wajib? He said, yes. What kind of question is this? Are you insulting my intelligence? This is the first question you ask me? Of all the questions you could have asked me, you asked me, is Hajj wajib? He said, a child knows that Hajj is wajib. He said, very good. Okay. These are the questions I have. He said, why are you getting upset? He said, very well. He said, this is not the Imam. This is a random individual in the darbar, in the court of Mutawakkil. He says, my question is Hajj wajib? Answer it. He says, it's wajib. He says, now, was Hajj wajib on the prophets? He said, Hajj wajib on the prophets? The prophets before the Prophet Muhammad, before Rasulullah, was Hajj wajib on Isa, on Musa, on Ibrahim, on Nuh, all the way? He said, yes, it's wajib on the prophets. He said, okay. Was Hajj wajib on Nabi Adam? Was Hajj wajib on Nabi Adam? He said, I think so. I think it was wajib on Nabi Adam. He said, should be. He said, hold on. You said, Saluni. I want you to tell me, was it wajib or no? He said, yes, it was wajib. Okay. So Nabi Adam is first man, right? He said, yes. He said, very good. Now, can you tell me that one aspect in Hajj is the male is supposed to trim or cut their hair during Hajj? As many know, the shaving of the head during Hajj by the male. Can you please tell me who shaved the head of Nabi Adam? He said, oh, he became silent. He didn't know. At that point, he didn't have an answer. When he didn't have an answer, the whole darbar, the whole court became quiet. At that point in time, they said, who knows the answer? They said, Mutawakkil said, call on the person, the only one who knows the answer. He said, call on Imam Hadi, call on Imam Naqi. When they called Imam Naqi, he said, what's the issue? What's the problem? What's that issue that you're debating about, discussing about? He said, the question has come up, was Hajj wajib? And if it was wajib, was it wajib on Adam? And if it was wajib on Adam, who cut the hair of Adam? Who trimmed the hair of Adam? He said, this is the question, this is the issue. He said, this is no issue. The Imam alayhi salam said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Nabi Adam did the Hajj. When he did the Hajj, he sent Jibreel alayhi salam. When he sent Jibreel, he sent a ruby stone. With that ruby stone or yaqut stone, he asked him to shave the head of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. Wherever the rays of light of that stone went, that became the four corners of the haram. He said this was the answer. The whole crowd had no answer at that point in time. They became astonished. They said, Yabna Rasulullah, while you're here, maybe we can ask you one or two more questions. They had many questions. The riwayah is very long. I don't have time to go into the details, but he went through detail and undetail, just some questions. They said, Yabna Rasulullah, just answer some questions. He said, very well, what are your questions? He said, number one, for example, why is there salah? Why is there Fajr salah and Zuhr salah and Maghrib salah and Isha salah, for example? Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. Why these different salah? So the Imam alayhi salam said, for example, when Nabi Adam alayhi salam was sent from Jannah to our earth, whether it was that Jannah that we will be in and the hereafter, because there's a big debate about this. How did Shaitan get into Jannah? Because Shaitan had already been removed from Jannah. He can't come back. So the ulama say this could have been a garden on earth. Nonetheless, wherever he was, when he came to this earth, it was dark, according to the Imam. When he came to this earth and it was dark, during that darkness, it was complete pitch blackness. And he had prayed to Allah to give him some light. When he saw the first twilight, when he saw the first glimpse, Subh Sadiq, as they say, when the first ray of light came, he thanked Allah by reciting 2 rak'ah of salah. When he recited these 2 rak'ah of salah, according to this narration, Imam Hadi is attributed to have said to him, when he recited these 2 rak'ah salah, that was the concept of Fajr. Then the Imam went on and further, and he explained, for example, Zuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha, for example, and he explained all of those things. Another question that, for example, came up was the issue of cutting the hand of a thief, for example. You know, many, unfortunately, Muslims, they're barbarians with these issues. They don't know. This is what happens when you leave the ark of salvation, when you leave Safinatun Najat, when you leave the ark of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That is the problem that arises. That the poet says, "Suna hai aatish dozakh mein doob jata hai, utar dein jise safine se." That person who the Ahlul Bayt removed from the ark of salvation, that person drowns into the sea of darkness. This is why you need to stand up still. So the debate emerged in the court of Mutawakkil that what happens to a thief? Do you cut his fingers? Do you cut his hand? Do you cut his whole half of his hand? You cut his whole hand. One person said you cut the whole palm off, you cut the whole palm off. Another one said, no, you cut half of you cut here, because the Quran's ayah says to wash up until the elbow. So you cut off the elbow. Another one said cut off the whole hand, because it says hand is all the way up to the joint here, cut that off. They asked the Imam, what is the answer? He says, the Quran says that you must allow people to, for example, pray. Masajida lillah, that the place of sujood, the 7 places that touch the ground when you are to pray, these are Allah's, and everyone has the right to pray. So you cannot do something that if you remove it from them, they can no longer pray. So, by the way, for my youth, many people ask this question. You know, there's 19 conditions before you can cut even this little bit of someone's finger, a thief. For example, there should be no famine. There should be no financial difficulty. The person should not have had a hungry family. There are 19 conditions. Sometimes if you read the conditions, you're like, how will this ever happen? All of these conditions have to be met before someone's hand or something is cut. Nonetheless, I'm leaving all of these things to the side, and I just want to share with you, the Imam said it would only be the 4 fingers if all of the conditions are met. This was the Imam helping in the most difficult, in the most tumultuous, in the most dire circumstances, in the most dire difficulties. The Imam helped at other places, and I want to share this one. There was a companion of the Imam, or a lover of the Imam, or a Shia of the Imam, who fell into a very big difficulty. I want to share this narration, this hadith with you, this riwayah with you, because this will help you in the most difficult time. Yunus al-Naqash. Yunus al-Naqash was a jeweler, and he had been commissioned by the ruler, by the Abbasids, in order that he had a very precious jewel, a very precious stone. Think of the most expensive diamond, maybe Tiffany's diamond or something like this. He had the most, or the Kohinoor or something like this. You know, he had this huge diamond or this rock or stone that was valuable, and he told his jeweler, Yunus al-Naqash, who was a follower of Ahlul Bayt, he said, I want you to fix this and, cut it and make it look nice and pretty and all of these things and bring it back to me the next day. Yunus al-Naqash, he goes, he makes the preparation, and he's trying to do his work, and he's supposed to bring it to the ruler the next day. When this happens, at that point in time, his young son in the house is playing with this. He gets his hand on this jewel somehow. Maybe Yunus went away for a few minutes, his son came. When his son came, he took this and it slipped from his hand. When it slipped from his hand, this stone broke into 2. This very precious, valuable stone broke into 2. Now you can imagine, these rulers were people, they would kill their own brothers. They would kill entire villages. They would attack the shrines of Ahlul Bayt. These were butchers, not rulers. You think they would spare the life of Yunus al-Naqash? Because such a valuable stone he broke? He became extremely worried. His life was on the line. Do you know what he did? He said, I must go and visit the Imam in the prison, who was in prison. He went to the prison. He said, I am here to meet Imam al-Hadi, Imam Naqi. They allowed him in. When he came, he said, Yabna Rasulullah, I'm in a grave difficulty. Yabna Rasulullah, I'm in a huge problem. Yabna Rasulullah, I'm in a huge mess. Can you help me? Can you please help me? There's no one else. He said, what is the issue? What is the problem? He said, I have this stone, it has broke. And my son has broken the stone and it belongs to the ruler. He says, don't worry. Tomorrow, go to the darbar. Tomorrow, go to the ruler. Before you go, do tawassul to us. This is the lesson I wanted to share for you and I. He says, before you go to the darbar, before you do the visitation and you go there, just do tawassul to us, the Ahlul Bayt. That is, the white tawassul that you recite on Tuesday nights. I don't ever want to hear anyone say, why do we recite dua tawassul Tuesday nights? I'm giving you the answer here right now. He said, do tawassul to us, the Ahlul Bayt, and see what happens. But with sincerity, with truth, with belief. He said, very well. He said he went to the darbar. He went in front of the ruler. When he went in front of the ruler, he's sweating, he's trembling. He hasn't said anything. He doesn't know what to say. He looks at him. The ruler looks at him. He says, Yunus al-Naqash, you're my jeweler. He said, yes. He said, you know that jewel I gave you, the very expensive one? He said, yes. He said, I need you to do something. He said, I know I told you to cut it and make it look nice in one piece, but I have an issue. I have 2 wives. These 2 wives, they're fighting over this jewel and I cannot get them to agree. One wants it, the other one wants it. Nobody's agreeing. They're not coming to a consensus. I need you to help me out. Yunus al-Naqash saying, what? So what do you need? What do you need me to do? He said, that same jewel I gave to you, I need you to split it in 2. Now inside, Yunus al-Naqash, outside, he's stable. Inside, Allah knows what's going on with his calmness and pleasure that he's getting and how happy he must be. He says, and split in 2. Very well. He goes back home. He takes this jewel that has been already split and he gets to cut it and he takes care of the situation. But he comes to Imam Hadi. He says, Yabna Rasulillah. Now listen to this line. He says, Yabna Rasulillah, do mu'ajizat, do karamat, do du'as, get accepted like this even? Yabna Rasulullah, the impossible became possible. The Imam didn't say yes or no. I want you to look at this and listen to this. Imam didn't say, Yunus, yes, du'as get accepted like this. Imam said, according to the riwayah, attributed to the Imam, he said, Yunus, when the things are through our tawassul of Ahlul Bayt, then they are accepted like this. My dear brothers and sisters, in your most difficult time, in your most dire time, I have told you about Fatiha of Al-Banin, the mother of Abul Fadl al-Abbas. That is like a miracle solution in this time, inshallah. Try it with sincerity. But do tawassul of Imam Hadi, do tawassul of Ahlul Bayt, and see how they deliver you in the most difficult of times. Inshallah, they will in this time, and they will deliver you and I in every time. The Imam is there as a grace. Remember, the imamat, the concept of imamat in tashayyu has to do with the lutf of Allah, qa'idatul lutf. That is the grace of Allah. The Imam is a mercy upon us. The Imam is a grace upon us. When we understand this, we develop some relationship with the Imam. So one of my teachers or one of my mentors mentioned this and I want to share. Just take out 5 minutes. 5 minutes of your day to speak to the Imam, to develop a relationship to the Imam. And you will see the Imam of our time. You will see your life get better, inshallah. Another gift a salawat. If you can do 10, do 10. That would be beautiful. But do it as if you're giving a present to the Imam. Do it as if you are saying, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. You're wrapping this present and giving it to the Imam. As my mentor teacher said, that this is something that will help develop someone. They reciprocate that gift. And inshallah, you will get blessings in your life by the tawassul of the Imam alayhi salam. I don't have much time. My time is up. Tonight, we are here to commemorate Imam al-Hadi, Imam al-Naqi. Send your condolences to Imam al-Askari. Send your condolences to Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. Send your condolences to the Ahlul Bayt. Do you know the musibah of Imam al-Askari, the father of Imam al-Askari, Imam Naqi, Imam Hadi? Do you know how difficult it was? He was 8 years old. 8 years old according to riwayat when his father passed away. Imam, the 8th Imam, or the 9th Imam, Imam Taqiyul Jawad, when he passed away, when he was martyred, he was only 25 years old. When he was only 25 years old, this 8-year-old Imam, he comes to his grandmother. His grandmother is alive. The mother of our 9th Imam, the mother of Imam Jawad, He says, oh my grandmother, I want to tell you that my father has left this world and he has departed to the next world. At that point in time, she says, my 25-year-old son, how can it be that he's departed from this world? Imam Al-Hadi al-Naqi says that the angel of Imama, the angel that is appointed to the Imam, has now come to me. That means my Imama, Badahir, apparently has now begun. Of course, Imamat begins from before. Nonetheless, he says at that point in time, the Imam made the arrangements, people made the arrangements. The Imam, he said that I will lead the Salatul Jama'ah, Janaza, I will lead the prayers for my father because Mutawakkil wants to lead these prayers. I will lead it here so that my father has these responsibilities taken care of. What was the difficulty? Imagine at such a young age, at such a tender age, to lose your father. Then the Imam Askari had to go from prison to prison. He spent so much time in prison, and even during that time, he is laying the foundation for our Imam, the 12th Imam. All these difficulties came. Do you know the poison? Some of the Imams had to deal with the most difficult poison. Who, such as, for example, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, he had to deal with one of the most difficult poisons. His liver began to spew out. Do you know who else had to deal with a very difficult poison? Imam al-Radha alayhi salam. They say as soon as he ate that poison-laced food, the Imam covered his mouth with his cloth because blood began to spew out. Just like his forefathers, the poison that Mutawakkil gave to Imam Naqi, to Imam Hadi, was one of the most strongest poisons. The Imam began to tremble and the poison was taking its effect. When Imam Hadi was in his last moments, riwayat say he said to his son Imam Askari, he says, oh my son, lay me on the ground. He says, my father, why? He says, because I want to know what it was like. I want to feel a glimpse of my grandfather Sayyid al-Shuhada, who was on the ground in Karbala. Ajrukum ala Allah. They say that the soul of Imam Hadi departed towards the heavens. When it departed towards the heavens, Imam Askari made sure that the ghusl and the kafan and everything was taken care of. But the salams on Sayyid al-Shuhada, Aba Abdullah, oh Imam Hadi, you got ghusl, you got kafan, but what about Sayyid al-Shuhada? For 3 days, his body was laying on the ground. His ghusl was his own blood, and his kafan was the dust of Karbala. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Ya Allah, we ask you to bless this holy gathering. Ya Allah, by the tawassul of Imam Hadi, grant all those who have a hajat, their hajat in this night. Ya Allah, anyone who's going through health difficulties, whether it's COVID or otherwise, grant them alleviation from this difficulty. Ya Allah, anyone who has a financial difficulty, Ya Allah, by the barakah of Imam Hadi, grant them alleviation from this difficulty. Ya Allah, anyone who has a haja, grant them their haja. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman and allow us to be amongst his companions when he returns. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdu lillahi rabbil alameen. May Allah bless you all in the Kansas community, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi
Muhammad wa ali Matam Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. आज रोज़े अज़ा है वावेला, आज रोज़े अज़ा है वावेला, शैका मातम बपा है वावेला, शैका मातम बपा है वावेला, ज़हर देकर नक़ी को लाई, दिल में खुश हो रहा है वावेला, दिल में खुश हो रहा है वावेला, घर से बुलवा के शह को जालिम ने कत्ल नाहक किया है वावैला, कत्ल नाहक किया है वावैला। हाय परदेश में मुसाफिर पर जुल्म क्या क्या हुआ है वावैला, जुल्म क्या क्या हुआ है वावैला। बेपीदर हो गए पीसर शय के, सबको सदमा बड़ा है वावैला, सबको सदमा बड़ा है वावैला। आज 10वां इमाम दुनिया से ऐ हुसैनी उठा है वावैला, ऐ हुसैनी उठा है वावैला। आज रोजे अज़ा है वावैला, शय का मातम बपा है वावैला। या हुसैन, या हुसैन,
या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। जब लाशाए फर्जंद नबी हो गया पामाल, उस वक्त अजब हाल में थी फातिमा की आल। तारीख में कुछ इस तरह लिखा है वो अहवाल, सब बीबियों में एक था बीबी का बुरा हाल। बेचैनी से आती थी दरे खैमे पे हर बार, बच्चों को समेटे हुए कहती थी दिल अफगार। आए बच्चों को समेटे हुए कहती थी दिल अफगार। ऐ जरी दिलेर बावफा, ऐ जरी दिलेर बावफा, बाजुए शहीद करबला। अरे जाने फातिमा मुर्तजा, जाने फातिमा मुर्तजा, तिश्न लब सकीना के चचा। अरे किसको दे सदा ज़ैनब, किसको दे सदा ज़ैनब, फौज अब करीब आई, ऐ हुसैन के भाई, ऐ हुसैन के भाई। अरे आपको नहीं है कुछ खबर, लुट गया है फातिमा का घर। सो रहे हो जाके नहर पर, नेज़े पे रखा है शह का सर। अरे किसको दे सदा ज़ैनब, किसको दे सदा ज़ैनब, फौज अब करीब आई, ऐ हुसैन के भाई, ऐ हुसैन के भाई। अकबर जवान नहीं रहा, बेजुबान भी कत्ल हो गया। कासिम हजी भी चल बसा, खातिमा हुआ सिपाह का, किसको दे सदा ज़ैनब, किसको दे सदा ज़ैनब, फौज अब करीब आई, ऐ हुसैन के भाई। अरे फौज शाम बानिए जफा, देख के अकेला बेनवा, कर दे जुल्म की ना इंतहा, छीन लेना के ये रिदा, किसको दे सदा ज़ैनब, किसको दे सदा ज़ैनब, फौज अब करीब आई, है हुसैन के भाई, है हुसैन के भाई। या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन।
ज़ियारत सैयद शुहदा अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न रसूलिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न अमीरिल मोमिनीन व इब्न सय्यदिल वसीयीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न फातिमत अज़-ज़हरा सय्यदत निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैकुम साइर शुहदाए करबला, खुसूसन सय्यदी मौलाया अबुल फज़ल अब्बास या इब्न अमीरिल मोमिनीन, अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू, अस्सलामु अलैका या गरीबल गुरबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या मुइनुल वल फ़ुक़रा, अस्सलामु अलैका या सुल्तान या अबुल हसन या अली इब्न मूसा युहर रिज़ा, अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू, अस्सलामु अलैका या साहिबल असर व ज़मान, अस्सलामु अलैका या शरीकल कुरआन, अस्सलामु अलैका या इमाम अल इंस वल जान, अज्जलल्लाहु तआला फरजक व सअलल्लाहु तआला मखरजक व ज़हूरक, अस्सलामु अलैका व अला आबाइक तय्यबिन अत्ताहिरीन, अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद।
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Book reminder, brother and sister, inshallah, tomorrow is the White Tabassul at 8 o'clock, inshallah. Please come and join.